Let me challenge you. If a serious buyer made you an offer today, would you even know it's a good one? Most founders wouldn't, and that's a dangerous place to be. For most founders, an exit will be the single largest financial event of their lives, bigger than salary, bigger than distributions, bigger than anything they've taken out of their business combined. And yet, most founders have no idea what their business would actually sell for today. If you're building a business and want real leverage, not surprises, you need to subscribe to this channel. This is exactly what we break down. Now, the gap between what founders believe their business is worth and what the market would actually pay is where most exit disappointment is actually born. You spend enough time online and it feels like exits are everywhere. Acquisitions, roll-ups, unicorns being developed, but that perception is really misleading. In reality, most businesses never sell. And most that do sell for far less than the founder ever expected. Now, I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm saying it because clarity is power. Founders usually carry a number in their head. Sometimes it feels conservative, maybe sometimes it's ambitious, but almost always the number is wrong. Not because founders are naive, but because they're using the wrong lens. Founders value businesses based on effort and sacrifice and the years you've invested and potential, but buyers don't. Buyers start with baseline market math. And if you don't know where the starting line is, you're negotiating blind. One of the hardest conversations that investment bankers have is telling founders what their business isn't worth what they think. I've watched founders walk away into that conversation excited, already spending money in their heads, only to leave deflated. Not because the banker was wrong, but because the founder waited too long. To make this practical, I use a framework that I call the Football Field Valuation. It's not a formal valuation, it's not precise, and it's not meant to impress anyone. It's designed to give you clarity and fast. It shows you the distance between where your business is valued today by these traditional financial metrics and the number you would actually say yes to. I like simple models, I like visuals, and I like frameworks that founders remember. I decided to pop over to my computer so I could actually share my screen and show you exactly what we're talking about here. When you have the football field valuation, you're going to literally be able to visualize and see valuation ranges that the market would use today. And the space between where you see your company's valuation using traditional financial metrics and your yes number is what I call the optimized distance. So you need to first ask yourself, what would someone have to offer you today for you to seriously consider selling your business? Not what you think it's actually worth, not what you want it to be worth someday, not what an advisor may have mentioned to you in passing, but your yes number. This is the number that changes the conversation. So I want you to write it down and you're going to literally place it in the goal. And we have a tool that we're going to share with you here shortly that allows you to do this, but I want you to visualize this. So you're going to place that yes number in the goal. And if you have never written the number down before, it's also pretty telling, right? So the next thing we need to do is we need to add some market reference points. And that is basically taking our EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. For most people, that basically is a proxy for your profit. And we're going to take your last 12 months EBITDA times 3 different multiples, 5x, 7.5x, and 10x. Those basically represent a more conservative, a middle of the road, and aggressive range for privately held companies. Now, the actual average for deals that get done is 4.7 times EBITDA. So in some ways, these are even a little bit more aggressive than what you might see in the marketplace. But again, they represent a range. Then we're going to do the exact same thing with revenue. We're going to look at last 12 months revenue, and we're going to multiply those by 0.75 times, 1.25 times, and 1.5. Again, reasonably conservative, kind of middle of the road and more aggressive. And these aren't promises by any measure. These are how buyers orient themselves and tend to use traditional financial metrics to value businesses. Now, this is where most founders pause. This, for the first time, you can start to see the situation because on one end, you have your yes number. Across the field, you end up with these kind of markers that are how the market is likely to value your business. And that distance is what matters, right? And so I've walked hundreds and hundreds of founders through this. And when they see that distance between maybe where 10 times, which is a pretty aggressive EBITDA multiple, might be pretty far away from your yes number. And there are a couple reactions. Number one, some founders will say, you know what, we're closer than I thought. That's less common, but of course, that's always encouraging. Reaction two, we're further away than I expected. Now, that's the most common thing I see or hear. Even with strong, profitable businesses, they often fall pretty far short when you're evaluated strictly on your financials, particularly as it relates to your yes number, which again might be far away. And this part really matters. This exercise is not telling you that your business isn't good. It's not saying that you failed. It's not saying you should sell it for less money, or even saying that your yes number is unrealistic. What it's telling you is financial metrics alone aren't likely to get you to the outcome that you want. And learning this early is actually the gift, because most founders don't actually start the process until they're emotionally ready to sell their business, or an advisor or banker forces the conversation, or even worse, a buyer sets the anchor by doing some of the math that we're talking about right here. And that's when the leverage is actually gone. So doing this now is what gives you control. So the better question isn't how do I sell my business? It's what would need to be true for the market to justify my yes number. That's the real value of the football field valuation. It's not math, it's actually clarity. So you now know how the market likely sees your business and how far you might be from your goal, because that gap is real, but it's not fixed. This is where most founders stop thinking about performance and start thinking about what I want you to think about, which is value. Now, we've actually created a football field valuation tool with AI, which is pretty cool. I wanted to show you the visual, but I'm going to share a free link so you can use our tool to see what the football field valuation would look like using your own numbers. The link for that is below. Now, if you found this framework helpful, I go much deeper into this inside my ebook. In the ebook, we talk about how founders start to see their business the way that buyers would. You learn how to build leverage early and avoid some of those painful mistakes that tend to surprise you later. You're also going to find a link to that ebook below. This is kind of a no-brainer. If you want insights like this, be sure to join my newsletter because we share these weekly. Subscribe here and follow me on Instagram. Thanks for joining me.